Welcome to step 10. Continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. The spiritual principle of step 10 is perseverance. Perseverance means persistence in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. I probably should have looked up promptly. As we work the first 9 steps, we prepare ourselves for the adventure of a new life. But when we approach step 10, we commence to put our AA way of living to practical use day by day, in fair weather or foul. Then comes the acid test. Can we stay sober, keep an emotional balance, and live to good purpose under all conditions? Emotional balance is built on a foundation of self-awareness, the ability to recognize your emotions and how they impact your life. A continuous look at our assets and liabilities, and a real desire to learn and grow by this means are necessities for us. Assets are the positives, liabilities are the negatives. We alcoholics have learned this the hard way. Stop barking. More experienced people, of course, in all times and places, have practiced unsparing self-survey and criticism. For the wise have always known that no one can make much of his life until self-searching becomes a regular habit, until he's able to admit and accept what he finds, and until he patiently and persistently tries to correct what is wrong. When a drunk has a terrific hangover because he drank heavily yesterday, he cannot live well today. But there's another kind of hangover which we all experience, whether we are drinking or not. That is the emotional hangover. The direct result of yesterday's and sometimes today's excesses of negative emotion, anger, fear, jealousy, and the like. If we would live serenely today and tomorrow, we certainly need to eliminate these hangovers. So let me stop for a second. If I don't get emotional sobriety, and if I don't learn how to identify my emotions, where they're coming from, and what I need to do to stop from to keep my emotions from overwhelming me, I'm most likely going to end up drunk again. A lot of us drank over our feelings. We were never taught how to deal with them properly. So there's another part of literature that says we can't stand it if we hate deeply. So our emotions seem to be, alcoholics and addicts' emotions seem to be stronger than normal people's. We have an excess amount of anger, fear, jealousy, etc. Okay, this doesn't mean so an emotional hangover is gonna make you extremely weak, tired, and sick. Now we know that stress causes illness. This doesn't mean, why do I have this here? patiently in a way that shows tolerance of delays, problems, or suffering without becoming annoyed or anxious. I told my sponsor, I said, I need more patience. I don't have enough patience. And she said, you have plenty of patience. You've got a problem with impatience. You need to ask God to remove your impatience. Okay, this doesn't mean we need to wander morbidly around in the past. Morbidly means in a way that shows an excessive interest in unpleasant subjects or in a way that increases the risk of getting a serious illness. So we're not going to get off course by focusing on all the negative stuff for too long. We need to focus on it long enough to where we can process it and eliminate it and learn from it, but not so long to where we get our minds stuck on it, to where we're so focused on negativity that we become physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually ill. We do not want to be sick. However, we do not want to only focus on only the good stuff and ignore the negative stuff, because that's called denial. So there's got to be a balance, okay? It requires an admission and correction of errors now. It requires a confession and reparation of mistakes in the current present reality, because we can't go back to past and change it. We can't go into the future because we can't time travel that we know of right now. But then, in order to eliminate the hangovers, the requirement is that we need to be in the now of confessing and correcting our mistakes. That's why it is promptly admitted it. So then we got further down, you'll see different types of inventories. Okay, our inventory enables us to settle with the past. Okay, our 4-step inventory allows us to process, feel, and eliminate the negative emotions that we never wanted to look at that are associated with the past traumatic events. To settle with the past means to pay a debt. There is no going around it. If you refuse to look at the terrible things that happened and deny their reality, you are most certainly to get drunk. And that's why I do not want to not look at it. I'm more scared of not looking at it than I am of looking at it now. When this is done, we're really able to leave it behind us. If we do a proper 4-step, we're able to resolve the issues that we had in the past. We're able to see through our 4-step and 5th step with the help of someone else how we got into those situations in the first place. Maybe for me, what happened to me in my childhood and the types of behavior patterns that I had adopted as bad habits that carried into future relationships that caused me to be in a perpetual self-fulfilling cycle over and over again in terrible toxic relationships. When our inventory is carefully taken and we have made peace with ourselves, the conviction follows that tomorrow's challenges can be met as they come. Okay, so we reconcile the past. We learn to forgive ourselves, and when we understand that There was a way of thinking that wasn't serving us or anyone else. Our beliefs maybe caused some issues. The belief that tomorrow's challenges can be met as they come. So if we can overcome that, if you can do a 4-step and overcome and deal with and reconcile and grieve, there's a lot of grieving, crying and anger, and it's like the stages of grief for me. The 4-step was the stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, acceptance. Heavy on the anger. Well, when you're willing to let it go, it's easy to let go of the anger and accept it. Although all inventories are alike in principle, the time factor does distinguish one from another. Okay. They're all alike in the same basis and the same theory. There's the spot check inventory taken at any time of the day when we find ourselves getting tangled up. Tangled up. To be caught or trapped in something, to be involved in a complicated or an unpleasant situation that's difficult to escape from. When you're emotionally trapped, okay, and your head is spinning around in a circle and is trying to figure out how to stop feeling that way, but you can't think your way out of a wet paper bag. And so you don't know how to get rid of that overwhelming feeling. That's when we stop, like the HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Stop. You get emotionally overwhelmed, stop. Ground yourself, center yourself, take a deep breath. Are you hungry, angry, lonely, tired? Take care of your immediate needs. If you need to pray a prayer that works for you, call your sponsor. Cry if you need to. It's okay to cry. I think crying is a wonderful release. Okay? So when we got to figure out what's going on with us. We're not always able to do that alone, so then we have to ask for help. Okay. There's the one we take at day's end when we review the happenings of the hours past. Uh, I'm usually laying in bed thinking about what happened during the day. The difference between how I used to go to bed and when I was drinking and how I go to bed now is the way I used to go to bed was try to drink enough to help me pass out so I didn't have to think about anything at all. It was too much. I had too many emotions. I couldn't I couldn't handle it. It was too much. You know, sometimes you just can't wrap your mind around how people would do some things that they've done or how I have destroyed my own life with my own selfish self-centeredness. Okay, the one we take at days in when you know, and now I'm in bed, I don't beat myself up as much as I used to because I'm willing to change now, because I'm willing to find a different way. I don't have to beat myself up so much. There's another way. All I have to do is be willing to look at look at it and try to figure out what I can do to change. Okay, when we review the happenings of the hours just passed. Here we cast up a balance sheet, crediting ourselves with things well done and chalking up debits where due. In the beginning, when you start doing this, it may be difficult for you to find your mind be able to give yourself the credit. You know, it's easy to skip over the positives and look at the negatives. But uh, as time goes by, I think you'll find it easier. I found it easier. Say, hey, I didn't cuss that person out. Good for me. there are those occasions when alone or in the company of our sponsor or spiritual advisor, we make a careful review of our progress since the last time. Many AAs go in for annual or semi-annual house cleanings. Many of us also like the experience of an occasional retreat from the outside world where we can quiet down for an undisturbed day or so of self-overhaul and meditation. Aren't these practices joy killers as well as time consumers? Must AAs spend most of their waking hours drearily rehashing their sins of omission and commission? So, an omission is when you omit something and you don't talk about it. Commission is when okay, sin of omission is a failure to do something right, and a commission is something done wrong. Okay, that's focusing on the negative. Well, I didn't do that right. I did that wrong. I was wrong there. I was wrong there. Well, I should have done this. Shoulda, woulda, could. Don't shoulda all over yourself because that's not going to work. Well, hardly. The emphasis on inventory is heavy only because a great many of us have never really acquired the habit of accurate self appraisal. So we're stressing it because we're trying to develop a habit of it. An accurate self appraisal is going to have the positives and the negatives. If it's only negative, it's not a self appraisal. It's a self condemnation. You're just beating yourself up. That's not an inventory. Habit. A behavior that is done frequently and almost without conscious thought, especially when it's difficult to stop. A constant, almost automatic practice acquired by frequent repetition. A thing that you do often and almost without thinking, especially something is hard to stop doing. My first sponsor was a registered nurse, and she told me that it takes 30 days to make a habit and 30 days to break a bad habit. So you can create a good habit in 30 days, but first to break, you got to take 30 days to break the bad habit and another 30 days to create a new habit. That's why I think they say 90 meetings in 90 days. Practice. Okay. Once this healthy practice has become grooved, it will be so interesting and profitable that the time it takes won't be missed. So now we know there are good habits and bad habits, or positive, negative, healthy, unhealthy, appropriate, inappropriate ways of thinking and behaving that is going to reflect it onto our lives. So we could change our lives, our very lives, by changing our thoughts and changing the things that our habits, we could change our life. Okay. We know this is more true now than we did back then. Okay, once this practice has become grooved, practice the actual application or use of an idea, belief, or method as opposed to theories or relating to it, the customary, habitual, or expected procedure or way of doing something. So they say it works if you work it. Guess what? It don't work if you don't work it. And if you do nothing, you get nothing. But the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. So we practice is our actions. Okay. AA actions, attitudes, actions. Once this practice, this action has become grooved, grooved is, I think of a drop of water from a mountain top, maybe, that rolls over a rock. One drop of water can roll over this rock every day, every day, every day. And eventually, it might take a long time, but if you keep watching that spot, you'll begin to see a groove. And it happens over time when there's consistent, continuous effort and effort applied to the action. It will be so interesting and profitable that the time it takes won't be missed. So once we get to the habit of it and we start learning more about ourselves, and we say, you know what, I'm going to change that. And we see that even though we don't get instant gratification in our life, and it takes time, and we keep believing and we keep going forward no matter what, then we start liking the consequences that we get from, we like the positive consequences we get from making the healthy, appropriate choices. We don't have to have the negative consequences anymore. And so we enjoy it. For these minutes and sometimes hours spent in self examination are bound to make all the other hours of our day better and happier. Yeah, because who wants to be stuck in the negative mindset all the time? Oh my gosh. Ugh. And at length, our inventories become a regular part of everyday living rather than something unusual or set apart. Excuse me, unusual or set apart. Wow. Set apart is going to get integrated into everyday life. Before we ask what a spot check inventory is, let's look at the kind of setting in which an inventory can do its work. It's a spiritual axiom that every time we're disturbed, no matter what the cause, there's something wrong with us. If somebody hurts us and we're sore, we're in the wrong also. But are there no exceptions to this rule? What about justifiable anger? If somebody cheats us, aren't we entitled to be mad? Well, I can't believe I didn't look that up. Spiritual axiom. Ah, I can't believe I didn't get that. Yep, there it is. Axiom. An axiom is a statement or proposition which is regarded as being established, accepted, or self-evidently true. It's a spiritual truth, spiritual axiom based on the following concepts. Feelings come from within, not from external circumstances. A person's spiritual condition is more important than the event itself. When a person's spiritual condition is positive, they will react positively. Can be interpreted to mean that a person is responsible for not reacting negatively, no matter how unreasonable others may seem. It can also mean that the person is the creator of their own reality and has the power to choose what happens within them. That's from AI. And a sober Catholic link. To me, what is wrong is the disturbance. It is wrong inasmuch as the hurt gets us off the beam. We are hurt in pain, suffering, and emotional. This is the wrong. It is not wrong as in error, but wrong as in imperfect and lacking serenity. The disturbance, whether jealousy, resentment, etc., has the potential to lead us back to drinking as we seek an immediate solution. The disturbance is the focus of our spiritual progression and recovery, and that our reaction to it lies in recognizing and dealing with it in a sober manner. This removes the disturbance and restores us to health. It's not something that's wrong with us. Okay, people can get offended at this. If no matter what the cause, there's something wrong with this. More like something wrong with I don't think it's wrong for us to be disturbed, okay? Because we're going to have emotional disturbances because we're human. I just think that all we can do is practice and be willing to try not to react emotionally to emotional situations. We can't sit in it and say it's okay for me to sit in this negative emotion because I'm human either. So, yes, we have these inappropriate, maybe feelings or uncomfortable feelings, like, but when we recognize it and we don't really want it, we'll be able to process it sometimes, at least within ourselves. We'll say, okay, this is really making me mad. Right? And I have a little inventory in my mind. Why is this making me mad? What happens? Is that affecting my pride? Is it because I think I'm better than they are? Is that why I feel like I could be justifiably angry? Is that really what you want to be like? God, please remove my self-righteousness. God, please remove this unhealthy pride. God, save me from being angry. Thy will, not mine, be done. So now I process it and I release it, and I can go back to serenity. I could be addicted to emotions because I get a little adrenaline rush too. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with us for having feelings. More like allowing my serenity to be disturbed is a choice that I make, and I need to practice the habit of acquiring the habit of without being able to achieve perfection. But are there no exceptions to this rule? What about justifiable anger if somebody cheats us? Aren't we entitled to be mad? Don't we have a right to be angry? Can't we be properly angry with self righteous folk when we know that it really is them and not us? We have found that justified anger ought to be left to those. Wait, for us, I mean, hey, these are dangerous exceptions. We found that justified anger ought to be left to those better qualified to handle it. Well, that's no doubt. Few people have been more victimized by resentments than have we alcoholics. So, anger, self righteousness, and holding on to resentments victimized us, bullied us, beat us up. They made us sick spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. They controlled us, dominated us, and ran our lives. It mattered little whether our resentments were justified or not. A burst of temper could spoil a day, and a well nursed grudge could make us miserably ineffective. Not only can a well nursed grudge make me miserably ineffective, it can make me want to drink myself to death over it, which I almost did. Ineffective means not not achieving what you want to achieve. So we want to achieve sobriety, and this is part of it. Okay? We can't afford to anger. Grudges, resentments, we got to get rid of that shit. Nor were we ever skillful at separating justified from unjustified anger. As we saw it, our wrath was always justified. I'm always right to be mad. I have a right to be angry if I want. I can be angry. I can hold that person in the bondage of unforgiveness. While when I hold someone in the bondage of unforgiveness and I put them in prison and say, I'm not going to forgive them, something weird happens and it puts me into prison. It imprisons my soul in there with them. Anger, the occasional luxury of more balanced people, could keep us on an emotional jag indefinitely, just forever. You know, it's got to stop somewhere. It's got to stop somewhere. Nobody wants to live like that. What kind of life is that? I have emotional jag, a state or feeling of exhilaration or intoxication, usually by liquor. So now we quit drinking and we're using emotions to give us tap into our hormones and adrenaline and so now we want to use emotions as a drug. Okay, we can't do that no more either. I know, right? These emotional dry benders often led straight to the bottle. So there's what a dry drunk is. You stop drinking, but you're still getting a buzz on these feelings. Doesn't matter if it's anger, depression, romantic love, uh, whatever feeling you're using as a pill to change the way you feel. Same thing. Here's what it is: an emotional dry bender. Symptoms include anger, feeling responsible for time wasted due to drinking and anger, resentment towards people who intervened, mood swings, chronic frustration and difficulty managing emotions, resentment, feeling unable to find contentment in sobriety and unresolved emotional struggles, boredom, feeling dissatisfied after the initial excitement of recovery fades, excessive behavior, substituting one addiction for another, such as food or sex addiction or compulsive shopping, fear of being unable to change and believing that sobriety is so boring, Psych, psychomotor agitation, impatience, restlessness, or difficulty focusing, anxiety, worry about maintaining sobriety, victim mentality, low mood, feeling negative and having no enthusiasm, difficulty maintaining relationships, struggling to communicate with others, cravings, trouble sleeping, feeling prone to stress. You're going to go through it. No one does not go through these emotional dry benders. We all do. So all you do when you go through it is hold on to your ass and it'll pass eventually. Do the next right thing, whatever's in front of you to be done. Try to let go of it, release it, get help because it's a dangerous place to be at. Other kinds of disturbances, jealousy, envy, self pity, and hurt pride, did the same thing. So, our emotions can cause us to get drunk until we learn how to get help and deal with them and, maybe journal, uh, pray about it, cry it out, talk about it, get into therapy, work with a sponsor, help someone else, etc. I think I'm going to stop there. And we'll take up at the bottom of step 10 where it talks about, let me finish this real quick. A spot check inventory taken in the midst of such disturbances can be a very great help in quieting the stormy emotions. Today's spot check finds its chief application to situations which arise in each day's march. The consideration of long-standing difficulties had better be postponed, when possible, to times deliberately set aside for that purpose. The quick inventory is aimed at our daily ups and downs, especially those where people or new events throw us off balance and tempt us to make mistakes. We'll be at the top of page 91. Next.